Hello and welcome. I'm Terry Lyston, President of Dynamic Workforce Solutions. I am your host for this episode of Dynamic Words, and it's a brand new series brought to you by Dynamic Works Institute. We have countless leaders who inspire us throughout this great nation of ours, and it's my responsibility to bring these voices to the forefront to share wonderful thoughts and innovative ideas with some change makers and people that I know in my circle who have made a difference in my life and in the lives of so many others. Today, I'm thrilled that you could join us, but I'm even more excited that Crystal Odom McKinney, the National Director for the CSEP program for Easter Seals, has agreed to be on Dynamic Words. Welcome, Crystal. So glad to have you.
Thank you, Terry. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, I'm excited that you're here and I'm really excited about your word. Share with everyone what word you chose.
Yes, so the word I chose is transformative.
Oh, I love it. Can you tell me why you chose transformative? I'm just curious.
Yeah, transformative is particularly, well, the definition, a part of the definition is related to your experiences, your actions, your changes, and the journey that you are in the path and what you do in life. And I feel like that is kind of the season that I'm in right now as a leader. I am a transformative leader in what I do. I'm doing a lot of pouring of knowledge and pouring of wisdom into my teams, my peers across the country, in the work that I do, both inside and outside of work. As a board member for the National Association of Workforce Development Professionals, I feel like through my journey of learning, I've developed and carried these toolkits with me. And each part of this toolkit, I've put in something else, another tool, another piece, another piece. And that has allowed me to now unpack that toolkit and provide those tools, those resources, those pearls of wisdom, whatever it is, good, bad, and ugly, to those out there, my peers, my friends, my colleagues, my coworkers, and even people that I work side by side with and that I consider my partners and my mentors and wonderful people that I'm surrounded by.
I think that's fantastic. I love the word transformative. We're going to dive into that a little bit more. Tell everyone a little bit about your career path and how you arrived where you are. I do follow you quite a bit on social media. You uplift your folks all the time, and I think that's fantastic. So, share a little bit about your journey and where you started and how you ended up where you are with Easter Seals.
Yes. Well, my journey is similar to many folks' journeys. We don't always land in the field of workforce development. Well, we do land there, but it's not chosen, should I say. I started in the nonprofit sector 20 plus years ago in specialized care and working with people with disabilities in the Chicagoland area. During that period, I was very, very passionate about helping people. I was also a new mom. And in the work that I did at that time, it allowed me to learn more about helping others and really get aligned with my purpose and my purpose in helping others. And that's where I started my work in disability. I worked in foster care. So I worked with families that were integrating their children back into their homes, but also families that weren't going to be able to go back to their children. And the part that really stuck with me as a newer parent, and then also in working with diverse populations and people with disabilities, that kind of carried me through my journey into my other part of my career path, which began at Easter Seals. And I worked initially in Chicago in the Austin community, which is the west side of Chicago. And I worked under the Clinton administration under the Welfare to Work program. And through that program, we were very boots on the ground people. We worked with our community partners. We did recruitment. We made brochures. We created trainings. We did scenarios and skits about interviewing and working towards becoming self-sufficient in what you do. And it was very rewarding. It was a lot of work because we literally had to walk the streets and really get people and bring them into our programs. It was also a little challenging with the population because we worked with them to kind of break those stigmas and those myths that were often intergenerational. So, the curses about going to work, the curses about, being on your own and having and developing your own personal brand in life. And it was really rewarding and really good work. Through those projects with Welfare to Work, added to that Ticket to Work, which is under the Social Security Administration, also youth programming, youth at risk programs through the city of Chicago, and then finally the Senior Community Service Employment Program. And did that for about 4 or 5 years. And then I moved over to our national office and began my work at Easter Seals National Headquarters. And my role at that time was more into business engagement and workforce development across the country. So that allowed me to, the relationships that I made locally, I could then forge those relationships nationally. And it is a lot of power and collaboration. And through that work, I started as, connecting with businesses, connecting with business partners, connecting our teams across the country with business partners, and then ultimately, moving into my role as assistant national director and then national director, where I'm at right now, where I oversee the Senior Community Service Employment Program for Easter Seals in our 11 territories, which are in 8 states. So
That's
that's a little bit kind of
That's
my journey.
amazing. I'm a big Chicagoland fan and I'm also a big Crystal fan. I think that it's been really incredible getting to know you because you are exactly who you are. And I respect that in a leader. You're genuinely passionate about the work that you do, no matter what. I mean, I've seen you personally, professionally, and it's just been pretty amazing to watch and be part of. When you think about your career path, and I'm thinking about you out there doing direct services and so on, can you tell me about a time that you had to be transformative when you grew up in the human services field that you're presently a significant leader in?
Yeah, yeah. Wow. A lot of instances definitely and kind of moving in that direction. Wow. Let me see. But I can kind of pinpoint one that I felt like I needed to be transformative and also, having those growing pains, if you will, with growing and development. One recently, during the pandemic, as many of us had to do, we had to pivot away from the way that we typically learned and the way that we grow and we also administer our services. I know you included a lot of what we did at one quick moment needed to change and we needed to do things differently. During that time, the same types of things were happening with a lot of the work that I do across the country with my staff, with my teams. I have a very intimate, hands-on approach with my teams. I like to go out, I like to problem solve, I like to work with them and side by side with them. I'm a counselor by trade, so a lot of what I do kind of aligns with counseling, working side by side, working through situations and not kind of being at that situation. So I use a lot of that in the work that I do on a regular basis, but particularly during that time of transformation was me being in a new and newer role and making a lot of decisions that impacted people. We work with a vulnerable population, being mature workers. We were pivoting during the pandemic from being in person, where there was a lot of I'm not sorry, virtual in-person work to the virtual activity. So I had to make a lot of decisions. I had to make a lot of executive decisions. Thousands of people's lives depended on the decisions that I made. And during that time, I just had to do a lot of deep diving. And what really brought me through that journey is what I learned in the military. I didn't mention that through
No,
my
you
kind of
didn't.
um, I'm a military veteran. I served in the Gulf War in 1990 for 7 months. I was in a military police unit, and my role was administrative. I wasn't an MP, but I did administrative work. However, the pieces that I learned during my military tour in Southwest Asia was, making those decisions, remembering the team. It's, understanding the group and the importance of bringing your group forth together and making those decisions to be better and to be the best that you can be. And so how that aided me in 2020 during the pandemic and making those decisions is, thinking about my teams and what's best for the teams, thinking about, beginning with the end in mind. And the end during that time was, surviving,
Yeah,
and also having that satisfaction, and finding ways that we can, keep instilling the confidence in one another and also while doing your job. So, pivoting to check-ins and also pivoting to the frequency of our conversations just to check in. Similar to what you do in the military. There's a lot of buddy buddy, are you okay? And so, really making sure that I did that approach and what I during that period of time with my teams, with my teams that were on the ground as well as my national teams. Checking in, and that was really really the core of it.
yeah,
Making sure that we were okay before we could move on and do other things. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that was a piece that was really, in my opinion, recently transformative.
I think that's phenomenal. Checking in for the sake of checking in. Like, what a concept instead of checking in for some sort of report or information or something, but checking in for the sake of checking in. I'm going to use that. So, as you reflect on your leadership toolkit right now, it sounds like you're being transformative all the time. You started out by saying, here I am in the season of transformation. Is there anything you could tell an aspiring leader of why you need to have transformative as a tool in your toolkit? Can you share a little wisdom on that?
Yeah. So first, I just kind of want to level set a little bit of why I chose that word transformative. I've been in this work, in this role, similar in this space for 19 years. So I am in that season of pouring into others. And I'm also in that season of, if I could really be transparent, thinking about where I need to evolve, and sometimes that even means evolving into your purpose of the space and the place that you are in life. So, life at work, life at home, life all around. So that's kind of, I just wanted to really level set with that part because I feel like that's very important in sharing why I chose the transformative word. But what I would share with leaders and emerging leaders as far as, transforming and in transforming in what you do, definitely around, a couple of things. Understanding, as I mentioned before, the core of what you do in the time that you're doing it. And that has to do with purpose. So, you could be thrown a lot of balls in life, you can be put in a lot of different directions, but having some kind of grounded purpose in what you do should definitely drive you in what you do. Another piece I feel is just, adding on to that is being who you are. So for example, you can design yourself into this role, this responsibility. Perhaps it was someone else's role or responsibility, which is great, but you have to make it your own. You have to, and this is what I tell my teams, we talk a lot, we use analogies like making the good pot of soup or gumbo. You have to take that gumbo and put your own spice and your own recipes in it because again you're standing in it, and you have to make it what it needs to be for you so that you can step in that role and do what you need to do. Now I don't mean going in and being, I'm going to change this and I'm going to do that, but also understanding that it's your spice and your secret sauce, which is going to make it happen. And it's also, related to the way that we do things in life. The more that we're attracted to it, the more we're going to do it, right? And we're probably going to do it good. So I think that that's very important too. So, making it your own, understanding your purpose. And also, you read a lot of articles about leadership and they say, yeah, you got to be transparent. You got to be this. Understanding emotional intelligence is really good. Understanding, goal setting and all that good stuff. That's good too. But, I think understanding the core of it and that changes a lot. It changes as you grow and as you develop. But that's a good point to also keep in mind as a leader. Just as we have our own, like, we were just in January and we were creating these vision boards and we throw it out there at the beginning and we're like, yeah, I'm going to do all this. Have incrementally the time to um, understand and kind of do a reassessment for yourself as a leader. And that can also let you know, like, okay, at this time I'm good, but let's change this. I know I put this in this direction, but let's make it into this instead. I can do my own checkpoints and reassessments to see how I can do better or do differently and understand those lessons learned through the process. And then last but not least, understand that it's okay to fall, to fail. Just get up, just get up and learn from it. And I think in what we do sometimes, especially as leaders, we beat ourselves up and say, oh, I failed, I'm a failure. If you heard some of the stories, I didn't share this part. I was in nursing school twice
Oh,
and I did not make it out nursing school twice. And I share that with my teams. And they're like, oh my God, you went to school and you didn't do well. I didn't. But guess what? It made me who I am. And I am not at all gonna erase anything and second guess that because that was a part of my journey. And those bumps and those bruises through life, that made me who I am. And I'm standing in that space right now. And just kind of understanding that. Understanding is okay. It's okay to fail or fall and what they say. It's definitely okay.
and it's part of that transformative
Well,
spirit that you have. So that's wonderful. I got so many nuggets today myself. Crystal, this is my professional development opportunity. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Dynamic Words. It's been an absolute pleasure to explore the impactful stories shared by Crystal today. And Crystal, thank you so much for your time and insight. As we wrap up this conversation, we hope you leave feeling inspired and empowered by the power of today's dynamic word, transformative. If you enjoyed today's episode, share it with your friends and colleagues who might just find it inspiring as well. And don't forget to subscribe to the series for more compelling discussions with outstanding leaders. Until next time, keep embracing the power of words. This is Terry Lyston from Dynamic Works Institute, signing off from Dynamic Words, saying stay dynamic and stay inspired.